settle in. Let me tell you about a man named Pahom and a question that cost him everything. It began, as so many troubles do, over supper. Two sisters sat talking, the way sisters will. The elder had married a merchant and moved to town. The younger had stayed in the village, married a peasant, and the elder was feeling rather proud of herself. Town life is the only life, she said, smoothing her skirts. Clean hands, fine goods, no bowing to anyone. The younger sister shook her head. Give me the land, give me the earth. A peasant's life is honest, no temptation, no sin. Now Pahom was sitting just behind the stove listening, and something stirred in him. He thought, she's right. If I only had land, enough land, real land, I'd fear no one, not the devil himself. And from behind the stove, so the story goes, the devil smiled, because Pahom had just spoken the very words he'd been waiting to hear. Not long after, a chance came. A neighboring landlady decided to sell her estate, and the peasants of Pahom's village pooled together to buy what they could. Pahom scraped and borrowed and managed to buy 40 acres of his own. Oh, and those 40 acres. He loved them the way you love something you have waited for a very long time. He plowed them, he seeded them, he walked their edges in the evening just to feel them beneath his boots. The hay was his hay. The grain was his grain. But here's the thing about land, and perhaps about wanting too. Once you have a little, the little starts to feel small. A neighbor's cow wanders across your field, and suddenly it is an outrage. A boundary stone shifts an inch, and it feels like theft. Pahom found himself quarreling with neighbors, dragging men before the commune, lying awake with grievances he never had before. He had land now, and somehow, impossibly, he needed more. Years passed. Then one evening, a traveler stopped at Pahom's house, a peasant just passing through, and over tea he mentioned something almost offhand. Out east, the man said, beyond the Volga, there are people called the Bashkirs. Simple folk, friendly. And the land they have, oh, the land, flat and golden as far as any eye can see. And do you know what they charge for it? He paused, enjoying the moment. 1,000 rubles, for as much land as a man can walk around in a single day. Pahom set down his cup. Walk around it in a day, the traveler repeated. Whatever you can circle before the sun goes down, it's yours. That night, Pahom could not sleep. He lay in the dark, and behind his closed eyes he saw it. Rolling step, black soil, acres and acres, with no end. He thought, what is one day's walk for a lifetime of land? He was up before dawn, already counting his rubles. The devil, somewhere, was already watching. The Bashkir camp was cheerful and easy, full of felt tents and the smell of tea and horses. The chief received Pahom warmly, laughing and gesturing wide at the horizon. The terms were simple, almost dreamlike in their generosity. 1,000 rubles, one day. Start where you like, walk as far as you like. Only, you must return to the very spot you started before the sun touches the earth. If you do not return in time, the money is forfeit. If you do return, every inch of ground your feet have touched is yours. Pahom slept restlessly that night, or tried to, and in his half-sleep he had a dream, strange and cold. He dreamed he saw a figure laughing beside the tent, and when the figure turned, it wore first the face of the Bashkir chief, then the face of the traveler who had told him of this place, then the face of the devil himself, and at his feet lay a man, dead on the grass. Pahom woke with a start. Dawn was breaking. He laced his boots and told himself it was nothing. The morning was glorious. The dew was still on the grass as Pahom took off his coat, tucked his money beneath it as his mark, and began to walk. The land was everything the traveler had promised, rich and dark and wide as the sky. Pahom walked east into the sunrise, thinking, just a little farther, just to that low rise, just to where the soil looks even blacker, even richer. He dug small holes with his heel as he went, marking the corners of his future kingdom. By midday, he had gone very far, perhaps too far. The sun hung at its peak, indifferent and blazing, and when he turned to look back, the Bashkir camp was a thin smudge on the horizon, the people barely specks of color in the distance. He felt the first flutter of worry, but the land ahead was so fine. Just a little more, he told himself. Just that marshy stretch, good for flax. Just that oak grove. He turned south. He kept walking. He did not notice that the sun had begun its long lean toward the west. Then he looked up. The sun was falling. Not gently, it seemed, but plunging, rushing toward the rim of the earth with a terrible urgency. And Pahom was still so far. So very far from where he had started. He began to walk faster, then faster still. Then he was running. His fine boots grew heavy, his shirt soaked through, his throat burned with every breath. The steps stretched ahead of him, shimmering with heat, and the camp, the coat, the money, the starting point, was still so small, so far. He threw away his coat. He threw away his flask. His feet were bleeding, but he could not feel them anymore. He could hear his own heartbeat like a drum, frantic and ragged. The sun touched the hills. The Bashkirs were shouting. He could hear them now, faintly, cheering or warning. He couldn't tell which. He ran. He ran with everything his body had and everything it didn't have anymore. The starting mound was there, just ahead. The chief standing on top of it, calling out. Pahom's legs found one last terrible stride. He reached out. He touched the mound and fell. The Bashkirs fell quiet. Pahom lay on the ground, his fingers still curled in the dirt, a thin trickle of blood at the corner of his mouth. He had made it. He had run his great circle. The land was won, but Pahom did not rise. His servant knelt beside him, then looked up at the gathered faces and shook his head. The chief stood there a long moment, watching. Then quietly, he said, "A fine piece of ground he has earned himself." The servant took up a spade. He dug a grave right there, in the place where Pahom had fallen, 6 feet long, just enough for a man to lie down and rest at last, and that is where they buried him. Now, you sit with that for a moment. All that hunger, all those miles, the sleepless nights, the quarrels, the rubles saved and schemes hatched and boots worn through, and in the end, 6 feet of earth. The same 6 feet waiting for every one of us, whether we own 1,000 acres or none at all. I think old Tolstoy knew the answer before he even wrote the question. And perhaps, sitting here in the warmth, so do you.